Earnestly podcast coming to you November 16th, 2021. How you guys doing? I'm actually right now driving down a garage because I'm actually on the way to a work meeting. So I got about 30 minutes of time here to record. I had to drop my kid off because I need a babysitter. So for an hour or two, because my wife's working now and I have to do a work meeting. So our own Mikey Beast, the Spike Squig Vernier, his wife, Carol, who had her birthday last week, she opted to help us, watch my youngest son for about an hour, 2 hours, or how this meeting's going to be. So thank you so much for doing that as I take care of this. So I figured, let me get this in now while I can, as we are, it's Tuesday, it's a beautiful Tuesday. I was driving a little while ago, and, it's funny, my wife hates Florida. Now, granted, she's born here and she's raised here and she's never known anywhere else but Florida in terms of living. So so it's kind of understandable why she wouldn't like Florida. But man, there's certain days though, I'm indifferent in Florida. I mean, I like it. I don't hate it. I'm indifferent. But there's some days like when I drive through here, I'm like, I'm really glad I live here. I'm really glad I live here. Because I do like cold weather, but I couldn't take cold weather for 9 months at a time. 8, 9 months a year. I can't do that. My wife thinks she can do that. And I'm sorry, I told her, if you want to go ahead and scoop ice and stuff and do a black ice and snow ins and stuff, go right ahead. I mean, I remember as a child having to deal with that a lot, and it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty at all. And I was 8 years old. I remember dealing with that, and I mean, as a kid, you don't mind it, but when you have to, as an adult, have to be responsible for scooping ice and doing this and heating your car and thawing out your car, and those are things you really don't want. You take for granted. When you don't have to deal with that. So I'm grateful I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. And I was driving down here, and the weather's been nice the last couple of days. It's been cooling down now. We do get cold fronts. I mean, people don't believe this, but we do get cold fronts here in Florida every so often throughout the late fall, winter time. Sometimes early spring, depending on how things are up north. But the weather's been very nice last couple of days. Although there are still mosquitoes everywhere around my house. I have to check out see if there's a nest near my house, because I found a few more last night. Last episode I was talking about the mosquito bites I've gotten, and now I got a couple more last night. My wife even said she was complaining about getting nipped up last night too with mosquitoes. I'm like, oh my god, this is not cool. It's annoying. I got sweet skin too on top of that. So I remember as a child at 10 years old, when I was in Trinidad, I think I was 10 years old. No, it wasn't 10. I'm sorry. I think I was 9, and then I went again when I was 16. And I remember coming back home, and the marks are still on my body, on my legs. I got bitten up to hell. They feast on skin like mine. Let's put it that way. So, dealing with that. But other than that, I love living here. Like I said, I'm indifferent in a lot of ways, but I'm also okay with it. So anyway, what's on today's docket? Last night's Niners. The Niners upset the Rams, so another weirdo week. Not as bad as week 9, but certainly a weird week altogether anyway. The Rams lose 2 in a row. They lose in pretty much blowout fashion. That was never really a game, to be honest. I turned on the game in the second quarter. They were down 20-7, 21-7, and that game never got close. So all of a sudden now, and you'll see when I record when I record the Football's Awesome podcast later today. I'm actually recording it this afternoon and then tonight, which comes on Wednesdays. You'll see the reflection on my power rankings. I won't reveal it now because I'm still working on it as I record this, but you'll see the reflection of that. Basically, there is no clear-cut favorite right now in the NFL. There is no clear-cut favorite, Super Bowl favorite. The best way to do these things in tiers. I actually consider making a tier list, kind of a comedic thing. Maybe I'll do it. We'll see if I have enough time. But yeah, I mean, you have your Super Bowl contenders. It's probably about 6, maybe 7 teams: Packers, Cowboys, Buccaneers. Still, you have the Rams, still the Cardinals, the Bills. That's 6 teams. You know, the Chiefs are kind of back down. We think. I'm not ready to put on the Super Bowl contenders yet. If I see another win like last week against the Raiders, like another week or two, especially next week if they play the Cowboys. Then yeah. But it's been a fun year, been a fun season. Wide open, like I said. You know, we'll see how this season, how the second half of the year goes, man, because you can't put your finger on anything at this point. You know, we know who the bad teams are. Like, that's clear. The Lions and Texans and Jaguars, and, you know, but Super Bowl contenders is actually more tougher to realize. I mean, you know, I guess the Super Bowl tiers obviously is pretty much fixed in stone for the time being. But there's a lot of teams coming to the party now. The Patriots now making a case for themselves. Like I said, the Chiefs are kind of back in the mix again. We still don't know how good some of these teams are. It's going to be a fascinating year. Tennessee, like, I still think Tennessee is that one team I kept my finger on because, yes, they won 6 in a row, and they were 8-2, best record in the AFC. But at the same time, they don't have Derrick Henry. And to me, how long does this sustain? I mean, they barely beat a pretty overrated Saints team. That's not as good. I will say not as good as their record. You know? So, but we'll see how that goes. We'll see the second half of the year. So, anyway, like I said, just check out the Football's Awesome podcast on this feed, which will drop on Wednesday. But we'll see. Power rankings on that as well. Let's see what else I got on the docket today. I'm actually looking in. Well, hold on. Let me say that for the end of the podcast. There's a lot of brouhaha on Twitter the last couple of days about Colin Cowherd on Twitter and his tweets. Like, he was talking about Mac Jones not being a real deal, and the Pats he's probably going to be the one guy to hold him back, and the Browns should turn things around and they'll beat the Patriots. And then literally within an hour, he's changing his mind and, you know, kind of hedging his comments. People take that stuff too seriously. I love Colin Cowherd, man. I listen to his podcast. I listen to his new podcast as well too, on his Volume platform, which I'm really a big supporter of, because I listen to about 2 or 3 of the podcasts on there. The Renee Paquette podcast, Oral Sessions, which is mainly wrestling related, and then I think once in a while Jenkins and Jones podcast is pretty decent. But you know, he's a sports personality. I mean, he can do that, and that's okay. I mean, whatever. I know it's annoying, but get over it. Who cares? We all do that. Hell, I've hedged some of my things I've said in the past, you know, and stuck with it, or changed my mind, or whatever. I mean, it's whatever. It's not a big deal. It's not. People are up in arms about that. Like, come on, stop. This is fun. This is all fun. This is sports, man. Right? We're talking about politics instead. Like, really? Like, seriously. Like, it's not that serious, man. So, everybody's all pissy about that. You know, I was listening to one of my colleagues' podcast yesterday. I haven't finished it yet, though, but the topic on the show was Magic Johnson versus Steph Curry. Basically, who is the greatest point guard of all time? Now, I don't think this is really a conversation right now in terms of who's number one. It is Magic, and it's probably still Magic. But I do think, to his credit, we have to acknowledge that Steph Curry is starting to make the conversation a little more interesting now. Like, I'm still 1 and 2 Magic, and then number 2 at this point Curry. Like, I had Isaiah Thomas there for a number of years. I think at this point Steph Curry is probably past Isaiah in terms of the impact. And longevity now. Isaiah retired after 12 years due to the Achilles injury. Certainly, if the science and modern technology was much more updated in 1992, 93, when Isaiah got hurt, I think Isaiah plays another couple of years, because he was still pretty decent into his last years in Detroit. But Steph Curry now is starting to win the battle on longevity and impact well too. What Steph Curry does not have that Magic has, and I think could definitely maybe make this conversation even more of a debate is if Steph Curry can actually win an MVP, a Finals MVP. Steph does have 2 MVPs, one unanimous, the first ever unanimous MVP ever, but he's never actually won a Finals MVP, and that's a big deal also too, especially when you're the best player, when he's been the best player from pretty much at least half of those Finals he's played in. Kevin Durant, obviously, when he had Kevin Durant, that changed a little bit, but I do think it's closer to a conversation in terms of having a broader discussion about it. Like, I'm still going to say Magic Johnson and probably the bullet, but I think we can have that discussion a little bit. Like, it's quite clear that Steph Curry's number 2 down the list. And you look at what Steph's doing now, and he's doing this year. Now, obviously, to see if this is still sustaining itself by, say, March, April. But doing what he's doing with the Warriors without Klay Thompson, who's not back yet, without James Wiseman there, the number 1 draft pick last year, the top draft pick last year, rather. I mean, there's definitely a lot of questions and, some will say debate about Steph standing. Like, I think I'm at a point now where I'm comfortable saying he's definitely a top 20 player all time. I think I'm there now. Because, again, when I look at impact players in the last 3-4 decades, obviously Jordan, LeBron, Shaq was dominant. Larry Bird had a time where, a 4-year period, where he was the dominant force. Steph Curry's in that conversation too. Steph Curry's been doing this for a little bit longer now than we probably give him credit for. Where he's been this dominant guy, when healthy, of course, for an extended period of time. We got to acknowledge that. The game has changed largely because of what Steph Curry has brought to the table. So, just saying. But I will still go Magic and Steph Curry 1 and 2. But I think if Curry could win a Finals MVP, if Curry could win another title too, which is very possible, he's still in his prime, we can definitely see a better conversation going forward. Of course, Steph Curry will have to crack top 10 conversation first before we have that discussion as well, because Magic Johnson is top 5 all time for me. So that's the situation there. I've been staying away from the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, honestly. Kind of on purpose, not really though. Like, in a sense, I've been, when I knew it started, but I didn't really follow it much. And then the last couple of days, it's been ratcheting up to a crescendo now. I think we're waiting for a verdict. I think right now they're in the closing arguments now. I'm just, again, I crept back a little bit into the political discussions the last couple of weeks, but I'm kind of like, you pick your head out a little bit, and you're like, you know what? Let me go back to my, not my safe space, because I'm not that guy, but let me go back to just be in my little corner. I told you the last 5 years of Trump, it was a bit, while entertaining, and obviously the content's overflowing and all that, burnout. It's a complete burnout. And you go on social media, it's the same thing. Friends are pitted against each other over some serious issues, some not so serious issues, and it's just one of those things where at some point you just get tired of it. At some point, even people you're friends with, people you like, you just get tired of hearing the same old bullshit. Like, okay, we get it. You don't like liberals, well, we get it. You don't like conservatives, we get it. Like, I'm not going to sit there and say that you're not allowed to say what you want to say, because I'm a First Amendment absolutist, free speech. But sometimes you got to look at the room. Like, what is your end game? Like, what is your purpose? Like, what are you trying to accomplish? And at some point, as I said after the inauguration in January, I just said, you know what? I'm using this time to just step back and dive into things I love. And I'll adjust from there. And then when I find some people had a little about politics recently, like, and this Kyle Rittenhouse thing's an example of that. this is polarizing. The people think that he's going to get off because they already dropped the gun charge. And they think the judge is also a quote unquote MAGA guy who's pro-country and therefore believes everyone else is probably innocent. I can't speak on that because I'm not watching, and I don't trust the media to give me the right. I don't trust any part of the media at this point now to give me the right information. You know what I'm saying? Nor was I there, at this, Kenosha when this whole incident happened. I do think that it's kind of ironic that this kid, 7 years old, was brandishing a gun in the middle of the street. And I'm pro 2A, but he was literally at a riot. If you're doing that, you're looking for trouble, first off. I'm not going to say he's guilty or not guilty because I don't know. I haven't followed him. I don't know the particulars. And honestly, I'm at a point where I just don't care. It sounds very harsh to say that, but I just don't care because I don't think my mental health can take another deep dive into the situation that may or may not even be what is being presented. I will, like I said, my only thing is this: why is this kid? I came back to this whole thing. Why is this kid out here with a gun, brandishing an automatic gun, in the middle of the street, 7 years old, in trouble? Like you're looking for trouble at this point. That's all I'm going to say about that. Now again, the particulars are particulars, and we'll see if the justice system, hands down the right verdict. But just burn down in general. So we'll see what happens. As I think we're days away from, we're probably going to head out getting a verdict in the next couple of days. We'll see. Survivor Series is also a week and a half away. On the podcast this past Thursday, on the Take 3 podcast, we were discussing Survivor Series and whether or not we like how they've announced, the card, and whether or not it's fixable. And I think Survivor Series can be fixable, but I think the way you should do it is this: you can have a sprinkle of the classic, Raw, SmackDown, Survivor Series elimination type of situation, and then build the card around that, and still have, your main event being a top few feuds on top of the card. I think that at the end of the day, I think we overthink Survivor Series. That we have to have the way it was in 1987, 88. Just the teams, types of live or name teams. You can have all of that. You can have all of it. Just make it something where it's the fall classic. Make it where it's important enough to where this is the biggest event of the fall. Okay, the same way we do SummerSlam, the biggest event of the summer. And of course, Royal Rumble has its own merits in terms of the event plus what the stipulations are if you do win the Rumble on both the men and the women Rumbles. I think we overthink it too much. I think they overthink too much. Just sprinkle all of those things into it. Make it great. There's ways to make it great again. As long as you have good feuds going into the event, it will sell itself. I don't think it needs to be more than it is. You have a couple teams, do Raw, SmackDown teams, and then have like the main feuds, the biggest feuds that's going on at the time, interject into blow-offs on that event. That Survivor Series should be bigger than Money in the Bank. Now, we know Money in the Bank is huge because of the what you win there. But Survivor Series should be selling its own. The name itself is selling itself. There's been many moments in Survivor Series that we look back. Some of the biggest moments in the history of the company have happened in Survivor Series. So why couldn't we just, continue to make it like an event that matters in a way that you have to complicate it? All the things that make Survivor Series great, bring into the equation. Do the team Raw, SmackDown. It doesn't have to be the entire card, but you can still have your blow-off feuds on that event. So, my advice to WWE is just don't overthink it. Make it simple. As Chris said, a band I can't stand. Keep it simple, stupid. So, I'm not really that excited about Survivor Series this year anyway. Honestly, I probably will still watch it, but it's one of those things where whatever, don't make it more than it has to be. The way WWE has done it the last couple of years. Now, granted, 2019 was actually pretty decent because they brought in NXT to kind of make it cool. and that was awesome. But honestly, don't overthink the room. Just make it simple. Do just everything that made it great, and keep 100. So anyway, I think I'll do it for me. That's 20 minutes there of today's podcast. On Twitter, of course, at EJChris7. So the next one, look out for the Football's Awesome podcast. It's going to drop tomorrow on Wednesday. And until then, we will talk soon. Later.